to my channel, Read and Escape with Nina. So today we are going to talk about another kind of old collection that I have here, and it is the Twilight Saga. Yes, I'm going to dig into this one. I'm just say I'm going based off memory. I did not write any notes from this. I just felt like, hey, let me just hop on. I know I had mentioned um, Edward Cullen in one of my other videos when I was talking about Salem's Lot and the difference between the vampires in each. And I was like, you know what, let me get on and just show my little Twilight collection and talk about the books. It's nostalgic for me because when the movies came out, I was crazy enough to go to the midnight showings because I was that crazy about Twilight. And I went with my sister and I went with my friend Kim, and we were there tired but amped up to see it. See the midnight showing. It was just really fun. Back then it was I don't remember what year it was, but I know the book was released in 2005. I feel like the movie didn't come out to maybe 2009 or 10. Um, but we enjoyed it. Being out there and all those lines with all your Team Edward fans, Team Jacob fans, and anything in between. It was back when it was really popular and was so fun. So, all right, let's get started. I am going to start with the first book, which is Twilight. What I remember from this one. So this one starts off with Bella having to, her parents are separated. She was living with her mom, who was married to this professional baseball player, I think. And he had some type of game coming up, or he was going to be traveling for his career. And Bella had to move from Arizona to Forks, Washington to stay with her dad. And it was a little awkward at first because um, they didn't have that much of a relationship. They did develop one later. Um, and so she's in this new town, new school, weather's different. She come from this sunny place to this state where it's just gloomy and raining all the time. And then, you know, she's naturally kind of like a awkward kid. Um, but she gets into the school and she starts meeting some friends. And one day she's at lunch and she sees um, the Cullens walk by. And the way it's described in the book is like they were floating, or they weren't really walking, but like they were floating, and they were just so beautiful, and they just caught her attention, and she's just looking at them in the cafeteria and just curious about them and things like that. Well, long story short, she her and Edward, they have like this little back and forth until it finally comes out that she realizes he's a vampire. um and so he takes her in the woods and he's like, what am I? And when I think about it now, it really is so corny. When I was reading that at the time, I didn't realize it was young adult, but I mean, it actually is. But he take her to the woods, and he's like, "What am I?" And she's like, "I'm not afraid of you." And he's like, "Say it." And she's like, "You're a vampire." And he's like, "Well, what do we eat?" So he's trying to get her because he doesn't understand why she's not fearful of him and everything like that. So after that, they become close, and he eventually introduced her to the other Cullens. Um, and the Cullens, they pride themselves off the fact that they do not drink human blood. They only drink the blood of animals. So they really did value human life, and they didn't want someone to end up the way that they were. So that was the thing. And they actually aren't supposed to let people know who they are. But they did. They trusted Bella, and it just goes from there. They end up dating and things. And in each book, there's like a issue that comes about. And I think in this one, um, I can't remember her name, but uh, it was one of the villain characters. She came in with like her boyfriend towards the end. when they were out playing baseball. The Cullens were playing baseball with Bella, and they realized that she was human. And so from then, her, the boyfriend of the female redhead vampire was trying to go after Bella and get to her, and the Cullens had to destroy him. That's when it goes into the other books, how that'll come up later. So they just destroyed him. They thought they got rid of him, and that was that. And they did get rid of him, but that wasn't the end of that. So yeah, that's pretty much book one. I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, when I read it, I didn't have any complaints at the time. I'm sure if I read this now, I'd probably shred it and pull it apart. But overall, not too bad. Next, we go into New Moon. This is the second book. And in this one, we're getting into, so in this one, it was more so Edward and Bella. And this one, we're going to start jumping into Jacob. So, where Edward falls off is at the beginning of this, they throw Bella a birthday party, and she ends up falling or causing something to break because she was always clumsy, and she ended up cutting her. Oh, I know what it was. She was opening up one of her gifts, and she cut her finger opening it. And then, you know, she's in a house full of vampires, and one of the vampires, oh my God, what was his name? I don't remember his name. Jasper. One of the vampires, Jasper, had a hard time transitioning from human blood to animal blood. So when he saw Bella's blood, he went crazy, and they had to hold him back. And that event really did scare Edward and made him feel like, okay, she's not. We're just too bad. I'm too bad for her. Um, I don't want to see her get hurt. So I'm going to tell her we're leaving. And that's when Edward just leaves her, and she completely loses it. And she has to start leaning on Jacob, and her friendship with him becomes a little bit stronger in her, grieving over Edward leaving. So that's when we get into a little bit more of Jacob. And this is when we start getting into the Volturi, because in a bunch of events in this book, Edward gets word that Bella hurt herself and didn't survive from it. So that's when he's upset, and he eventually goes to the Volturi, which is like the vampires of the vampires. They like make the rules. They're like the vampire government. And he goes to them and he says, I want you guys to kill me, type of thing. And then that starts a whole situation where Bella's trying to run back to get to them. So eh, quite interesting. And meanwhile, her relationship with Jacob is getting stronger. So that's this book. And then we're going to move on. So yes, in New Moon, this ends with um, Bella ultimately going to where the Vittori are so that she can save Edward from any harm. This is really good. The fight scene in the movie was actually pretty good too. Um, Now for Eclipse, this one is the one that I like the least. If you're a history person, it really dives into a lot of history when it comes to the wolves and the Indian culture, and um, the imprinting and all of that information. Is also a lot of fight scenes in this one too, and that's not the reason why I didn't like it, but um, I think I just really enjoyed the love story with Edward and Bella so much that I was kind of missing it in this. Um, so in this one, it goes back to the first one where the vampire with the red hair boyfriend was killed by Edward because he was going after Bella. And so what she did was she met another, what she did was she actually hunted a guy and turned him into a vampire, and then she convinced him to create a vampire army so that they could all go after and attack the Cullens. um, I thought it was really good. This is the point in the book where the Cullens and the wolves actually come together to try to protect Bella and protect their land and their town against this army of vampires. Very good read. Like I said, it was my least favorite out of the four, but it's interesting if you want to get more into Jacob and his family background of the wolves. And I don't want to knock these all over. And the last one is Breaking Dawn. Oh, I want to make sure it's right. Breaking Dawn. This is book 4. This is pretty thick one. So in this one, um, Edward, and just like I said, it was just a quick synopsis. This is where, um, so they already fought off the army of vampires. Everybody's happy now and going on with their lives. And this one, Bella and Edward actually gets married. Um, the wedding is beautiful in the book and it's also very beautiful in the movie. They get married, they go off on their honeymoon, they enjoy themselves, and Bella gets pregnant. And that's when things start getting interesting. She gets pregnant, she has to hurry back home because the baby is growing at an exceptionally fast rate, faster than what would be normal. And she has to get back so that Carlisle, which is who is a doctor, Edward's dad, Carlisle can take a look at her and give her any medical help that she may need. And this one is very interesting because despite the fact that the baby's actually hurting her and breaking her body down, she insists on carrying it to full term, and she does. Um, and that point, that's where Edward's forced, because she ended up dying from childbirth, and Edward's forced to change her over, and she does get changed, and we have finally gotten the vampire Bella in this one. And honestly, I liked her a lot better as a vampire, less awkward, I just enjoyed it. This was probably one of my favorite ones. And seeing the baby, how that was gonna, when I was reading the book, I was like, I wonder how they're gonna do the movie for this with the baby growing so fast and how they were gonna show that. And I mean, I guess it was okay on screen, but it was honestly better in the book. So yeah, and then like I said, with each book, there's like a problem and a fight, if you will. And I guess one of the cousins of the vampires ends up seeing Bella out playing with her daughter, and she has to go back to the Volturi and give a message about that because they shouldn't be mixing with humans, and it just turns out to be a mess for nothing because no one broke any rules. But there is a fight, and ultimately, again, they win, and they sort of just move on with life. And interestingly enough, Jacob imprints on Bella's daughter in this, which I thought was kind of weird. But she does grow at a fast rate, so she was practically Jacob's age by the time this book was towards the end. But it was crazy because as you're reading it, especially when you're reading, I think it's a new moon, you think that they're going to form some type of relationship, and even a little bit it drags over to Eclipse, book 3, and you think that he was like wanting to imprint on Bella, but I think all along it was Bella's offspring that he was drawn to, and we just didn't know it until he imprinted in the last book. Like I said, it was a good read, fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the hype around it. Going to see the premieres, it was fun. I was tired the next day having to go to work, but it was fun. Oh, and then I wanted to tell you guys real quick. There was another book that came out called Midnight Sun. It wasn't in the trilogy with these, but it was just another one from Edward's perspective. So it's basically Twilight, and instead of it being Bella's perspective, it was Edward's. I thought it was okay. It was basically like reading the same story, but just getting a little bit of a different perspective. Not too bad. Like a little fun read, easy read for you. But that is my Twilight Saga collection. I'll always be a fan. I'm Team Edward. Always was, always will be. Like I said, I enjoyed reading these. I had fun going to the movies. Um, and I know everybody wants to talk about Stephenie Meyer's writing isn't that good. Like I said, I only read these once. years ago when they first came out, and I thought it was okay. But like I said, if I read them now, it could be different. But I don't plan on reading this whole thing again. Um, I've seen the movies so many times, and I'm just done. But I would like to go to Forks, Washington, though. I think that would be really cool. All right, well, thank you guys for listening. I just love talking to y'all, and it's fun to hop on here and just tell you about what I'm thinking about the books I'm reading. So, you guys have a good night. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and have a good night. Bye.